Welcome to Woodland Permaculture. I'm Jenny Wood, and it's January, and I am about to plant a few things from my greenhouse into the garden. And you might think, oh, that's a strange time to be planting things in January, but these things in my greenhouse have kind of been not growing through the winter because of the cold, and I haven't been able to really warm up my greenhouse. I could be getting some electric warmers for underneath, but one, I didn't want to spend the money, and two, I kind of want to keep trying to save on energy and on fossil fuels. So I'm trying to find a more natural way with my compost pile, but that's heating it up and helping it to heat my greenhouse, but that's not working too well. So I've got some things. Hey buddy, how are you? I've got some things that I'm going to try and go ahead and put out into the garden today. But first, I have another scripture for you. So I love finding scriptures that have something to do with what I'm doing in the garden and have some meaning. You all know this scripture. I'm sure you've all heard this one. It's Ecclesiastes 3, 1 to 2. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. Well, I thought this was interesting because I feel like there are a lot of times and seasons in the garden where you do some of each around the same time. So right around now, like I said, I'm planting some things, and I'll tell you about those in a minute. But it's also about time to finally get some of these dead tomatoes out of here. They are pretty much done for the year. I kept them in there for a long time because they finally started producing some tomatoes towards the end of the year, and I was hoping they would ripen, which they didn't. But I brought in a bunch of green tomatoes inside. Some of them are ripening. Some of them I'm using as green tomatoes. And finding that you can pretty much use green tomatoes the same way you use regular red tomatoes. So, but now that these plants are done, it's the time of the season to take them out. As well as these dead flowers back here, annuals. These were a kind of morning glory here. And it's time to pull those out and get this area ready for the spring. But I'm also planting a few things to see how they do. It's a particularly warm part of January right now. Around here, usually we do have a bit of a warm spell and a dry spell in January before rains and cold come again in February and March. And so I'm taking advantage of this time to try some of these plants out here to see if I can get them kind of rooted in here before the cold and the rain comes back. So to see if I can get them established before spring comes and before the dry time comes. So today I've got a nasturtium that I'm going to plant here. I've got two different types of lupine. This one's a rodeo rose and alphernons or something. Sorry, I can't remember that. And these are also little lupines bicolor. As you can see, this is kind of what's happening in my greenhouse. Some of them are not doing well. Some of them just seem to me like they're saying, get me outside where I can actually get some sun. So I'm going to try those there. I'm right here by my trio of stone fruit trees, and I'm going to try gilding these plants and maybe adding some gild plants like this around some of my other trees to kind of support this this group of trees. Mostly these are pollinators that will attract some good beneficial insects when the time comes to pollinate. And also nasturtium is supposed to be good at warding off the undesirable pests. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. I'm not going to show you a lot of it because you've been there, you've seen that, but I might come back and share with you some other things that I'm doing in my garden today and in the coming days. Oh yeah, so I did also want to tell you how I prepared this area right here. This, of course, is the dirt that I told you about in my last video that came from the pit in the front yard where I'm going to put my gray water tank for the front, and had to bring a lot of that dirt up here or back here. And so that's what this is. And so I just kind of smoothed it out. I've made this berm a little higher. I smoothed it out a little bit this morning, and then I inoculated it with some more mycorrhizae. And then once I get these little plants planted, I'm going to cover it all with mulch and mulch it really well. But let's start with this. Nope, this one. This is the lupine. I believe this lupine is going to get fairly big. So that's why I want to get it into a space that gets a lot of sun, but also we'll have some space to fill out right here so that it's not crowding anything. Okay, now I'm up front. I've planted some of the lupine and nasturtium in the back, gilding them around some of my new trees and some of the trees that were already there. And now I'm up front with one of my 2 California hazelnuts that I just planted, I guess a couple months ago now. And they are still pretty dormant, although I think some of their buds are trying to swell a little bit. So they may want to be careful and wait just a little bit longer. But I've got some lupines that I'm going to plant in this general area between these 2 California hazelnuts. And I've got my almond tree just that way a little bit, as well as a fig tree and my jacaranda tree and of course my banana tree out here. And all of those can have some of these lovely pollinator attracting flowers around them as well. So I'm gonna finish planting some of these today, and then we'll see what I do tomorrow. Hey there, I'm way down in the dirt today. It's been about a week since I planted my flowers that you saw. I also planted, with a couple days after that, some beets and some Walla Walla onions, and maybe a couple of other things I don't remember. Alex is joining us today. Today I am planting some potatoes, and I got these little seed potatoes a couple weeks ago, and about a week ago when I was planting, I read some instructions, and the instructions told me I should cut them into smaller chunks so that there are a few eyes on each chunk, and then let them sit for about a week, and so that this part kind of calluses over, which is what it's done. And so I think they're ready to plant today. And I've got 3 different kinds. Russian blue. This is Algeria early yellow. And another one down there, which I can't remember. And I am planting them in my food forest underneath my stone fruit trees and down by my citrus, my grapefruit tree. And hey, bud, so they're going to be an integral part of my food forest. Right here in this area is where the tomatoes were last year. And I only recently took them out, only about a week or 2 ago, because they were finally dying. And I picked all of the green tomatoes off of them. I don't know if you remember, but they didn't fruit until late in the season. And that was because I watered them too much early on and didn't trim off a lot of leaves. And so once I started doing those things, they gave me a lot more tomatoes, but it was so late in the season they wouldn't ripen. So I picked them all and brought them inside, and they're starting to ripen, and so I'm using them as they ripen and as green tomatoes, which I'm finding you can pretty much just use like any other tomato. So I put them in chili, I've put them in salsa. They make a beautiful salsa with the red and the green tomatoes, so might as well use them as they are. And so this is that spot, and so now I'm going to be planting the potatoes in there. Let's see, anything else I need you to know about? No, I don't think so. I think I'm just going to plant some tomatoes and maybe talk as I go, like I usually do. Okay, buddy. You're being a little tricky. The one thing I'm worried about with these potatoes is that this land, the dirt is still really pretty tough. So I don't know how well the potatoes will do trying to grow in this clay. But as the years go by, it will get better. I also know, oh, there's a little worm. I also know that as these grow up, you should mound dirt up around them as they grow, and then more potatoes will keep growing as you mound up the dirt. And so as we go, I think I'll be bringing some dirt from my other dirt pile to mound up as the greens and the leaves get taller. Yellows, and if anybody was curious about what that third kind was, it was Cyphra White, and I kind of planted those in and among these perennials because I ran out of room in the bigger space. So let's go to the greenhouse and see what else needs to be planted. Here we are in my greenhouse. Please ignore all the dead plants. The ones that I'm going to plant are over here. I don't know if I can get these all done today, and I don't think I'll be sharing all of these with you, but I do have some Swiss chard behind me, carrots and broccoli, cabbage, and some arugula. The arugula did not do very well. I have one little patch of arugula, and then whatever these are, Brussels sprouts. Now I love Brussels sprouts, so I'm definitely going to try and find a place for those, but I'm running out of space in the back, so I think I'll find places for these out front. I also had 2 more little artichokes that I want to put out. I'm putting them out here in front because the ones I planted out here about a week ago seem to be doing a little better. There's one there, and one there, and one there. And they're all starting to get new little leaves. So I think this will be a good spot for these last 2. I may give these away when they get bigger. I mentioned in a previous video that my California Rare Fruit Growers group was gifted like 100 seedlings for coffee plants. And I picked out 4 of them for myself. And so these are the ones I'm going to plant in my garden and see how they grow. They're supposed to do well without a whole lot of sun, although right now they're going to get quite a bit of sun until the tree leaves out. But then they probably won't get a lot of sun, and that's okay. That's what these are supposed to be okay for, I'm hoping. And so then I'll plant them out here underneath the tree, and it will help to fill in this space right here and be something that's edible as well. This wasn't even spring planting. This was fall planting. I planted all these seeds in the fall, and they grew, they sprouted right away in my greenhouse because it was still warm, but as soon as it got really cold, they all either died or just stopped growing, which is mostly what happened. They just stopped growing. So now that it's January and there's a warm patch and there's sun, before it starts raining again, I wanted to put them out so that they might have a chance to really get established in the ground with sun coming at them every day. And then when the rains come again, which I expect there should be more rain either in February or March, then hopefully they will be able to survive any cold snaps and be able to grow up and just thrive. That's the hope. And we have a special treat because tomorrow I'm going to start the video and my tree pruning. I know I said last video that next video would be tree pruning, but I had to do my fall plantings first, and this week is the week I definitely have to do tree pruning because I'm going to my first scion exchange on Saturday, so I'm super excited about that. Anyway, lots going on around here at Woodland, and I just still really appreciate you guys coming out and spending this time with me while I do some of God's work here in the garden, and while I start to hopefully learn more about growing my own food.